Homage to the fundamental teacher Buddha Shakyamuni. Homage to the wisdom warrior Manjushri. Homage to all the lineage benevolent masters. Unsurpassed, profound, subtle dharma, hard to encounter in 100,000 eons. Now that I am able to see, hear, receive, and uphold it, may I truly understand the Tathagata's genuine meaning. In order to liberate all sentient beings, let us give rise to the Supreme Bodhicitta. Today, we will continue our study of the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch. In the last session, we extensively talked about how the Sixth Patriarch, Master Huineng, due to rather special and unique circumstances, he heard the revered name of his esteemed master and also learned that at the renowned Dongchan Monastery, located in the district of Huangmei, there was a significant gathering. There was such a truly extraordinary and revered great master teaching the profound Diamond Sutra. When he received this news, he also wanted to go. It was just like when the revered Jetsun Milarepa heard the sacred name of the great master Marpa, he immediately had the profound and undeniable intention to journey there. Coincidentally, the necessary and favorable conditions were perfectly right, and a kind and compassionate individual graciously helped him settle his mother, ensuring her well-being before his departure. After he had arranged everything for his mother, he left her side. He had already been walking for nearly a full month, as transportation was indeed especially inconvenient and quite difficult at that particular time. Indeed, the truly ascetic practices of the great masters back then were vastly different compared to now, not to mention that it was over 1,000 years ago. Even when we were quite young and went to our esteemed masters to study the profound Dharma, if you compare that to the situation of many Dharma friends learning now, I often make such comparisons. And in the analytical process, I frequently think deeply and reflectively. The conditions are much better nowadays. A couple of days ago, when I was chatting with a Kenpo, we both agreed that the conditions when we first arrived at the Institute were worlds apart compared to the conditions many new Dharma friends have when they come to the Institute now. There really is a huge difference. However, if we were to meticulously compare our levels of diligence and commitment, I genuinely believe that our dedication and hard work back in those days were exceptionally commendable and probably quite good indeed. Because at that time, even though we had no electricity and no roads, we couldn't even see any vegetables throughout the entire winter. But we were still very diligent, whether it was day or night. All our attention was focused entirely on listening, contemplating, and practicing the Dharma. Other than that, unlike now, there weren't all sorts of distractions. Nowadays, people in the world are constantly surrounded by all kinds of things every day, like TV, movies, and mobile phones, as well as all kinds of news and browsing various materials. And there are more and more things to deal with. People's minds are becoming increasingly scattered. Not to mention anything else, just take our phones, for example. I've observed this myself. Among our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and body, except for the nose, we basically use all the others on our phones. We look intently with our very own eyes, touch carefully with our sensitive hands, listen attentively with our keen ears, and speak clearly with our expressive mouths. So, with the sole exception of the sense of smell, and thoughtfully including the mind itself, all 5 fundamental senses are fully and completely engaged with it. In this way, as ordinary people, as people living in this world, how much energy does a person really have? We spend a long time talking to this person, and then a long time talking to that person. Then we eat our meals. In the past, eating was very simple. Just boil some water and have a bit of tsampa, and that was it. It didn't even take 5 minutes, maybe 3 minutes, basically 5 minutes, at most 10. In the morning, you'd boil a pot of water, drink half at noon, and the other half in the evening. Life was extremely, extremely simple. But now, perhaps, many of our Dharma friends have developed even higher standards and are actively pursuing absolute perfection in their spiritual journey. As a result, the time spent on listening, contemplating, and practicing the Dharma is getting less and less. Even when we do spend time on these things, there tend to be more distractions. I'm not saying that we practiced asceticism or anything, but this is just the reality. By comparison, many of the esteemed Dharma teachers from our contemporary time, they diligently studied day and night under very tough and challenging conditions, but they were indeed extremely diligent and dedicated in their practice. Nowadays, I'm afraid that may not always be the case. Of course, there are still some who are like that. Sometimes when you look at others, you still see people seizing every minute and being especially diligent. In any case, we should first recognize that the great masters of the past, They devoted all their hearts to the Dharma and to liberation. This is something completely different from how we are now. Another thing is their physical and mental effort, as well as their inner strength. Compared to people today, there is also a huge difference. Nowadays, as soon as we feel even a little bit uncomfortable emotionally, or when some afflictions arise, we immediately give up on listening, contemplating, and practicing the Dharma. But people in ancient times were not like this, whether living in the city or in a quiet, secluded place. Those who truly have the opportunity to listen, contemplate, and practice the Dharma, sometimes it's really necessary to hear the stories of the great masters of the past and their ways. Even the other day, I was thinking about this myself. The sixth patriarch, for example, traveled for less than 30 days, almost a month. I once read about a great master from Han region who went to study at Drepung Monastery in Tibet. His entire journey on foot was also truly astonishing. Nowadays, we don't need to travel such long distances on foot, and there are more favorable conditions for listening to the Dharma and in many other aspects, especially now with the internet and the advancement of many technologies. Many people now just lean back on their sofas at home and open up their computers. The Dharma that the great masters of the past obtained often came after enduring countless hardships. But now, you could say we can access it instantly. However, the easier it is to obtain, the less we tend to cherish it. This is always the case. In the past, if we wanted to get a text of the Abhidharma Kosha, or Buddhist logic, we had to copy it by hand ourselves. And even if we wanted to buy it, money was a big issue. But if you managed to get a book like that, for example, if I got the Platform Sutra of the Sixth Patriarch or Words of My Perfect Teacher, I would be overjoyed. I would treat this Dharma text as the most important part of my life and cherish it. But nowadays, you can buy them anywhere, so people don't treasure them. It's the same with the Dharma, and perhaps even with one's teacher. So everyone should reflect on this often. Yesterday we talked about how he arrived at Huangmei and paid respects to the fifth patriarch, Master Hongren. Actually, I didn't mention this yesterday about the fifth patriarch, Master Hongren. According to some historical records of the Chan patriarchs, his extraordinary coming into this world can also be considered extremely rare and truly exceptional. He is quite similar in his spiritual journey and profound impact to Garab Dorje, the revered Dzogchen patriarch in Tibetan Buddhism, and also to the enlightened Hevajra. Their foundational stories are basically alike, with many striking similarities and parallel narratives. As everyone knows, Garab Dorje, a remarkable figure, also did not have a biological father in the conventional sense. Later, people referred to him with the phrase, born from ashes, and indeed there are many such accounts that describe his origins. So, what was the fifth patriarch Hongren like, this leader? According to his biography, there was once an old man, an individual who planted pine trees. While passing by, he unexpectedly encountered the revered fourth patriarch, Master Daoshin. At that time, the old man who planted pines asked him to ordain him and transmit the Dharma to him. Daoshin told him, "You are already so old now. If you become a monk now and I teach you the Dharma, you won't be able to practice and attain realization or propagate Buddhism. It would be better for you to be reborn, change your body, and come again. That would be best." After saying this, they made such an agreement. On his long and arduous journey west, the wise old man who diligently planted many sturdy pines encountered a graceful young woman who was washing her clothes by the flowing river. The old man asked her, "Could I stay at your house for one night?" The young woman replied, "There are elders in my family, my father and my older brother, the main heads of the household. It would be best if you asked them, because in ancient times, family members generally deferred to the heads of the household. Especially in Han society at that time, it was very important to show respect to one's father and elder brothers." At this point, the old man who planted pines said, "I want to seek your consent first. If you think it's acceptable, then I can proceed through them." The young woman considered the situation, thinking that since it was already getting quite dark, and he was clearly such an old man, advanced in years, it truly wouldn't be right or proper to refuse his request. So, after a moment of thought, she agreed to his proposition, and after she had given her agreement, he then left. A few days later, to her surprise, the woman became pregnant. After she became pregnant, her family was utterly bewildered and couldn't understand it at all. They felt it was a great disgrace to the family. There was no real father, and in fact he never came to live with their family. So the family felt it was extremely unreasonable indeed. They promptly drove the woman out of the house and made her leave immediately without any further delay. After that, she was compelled to beg for sustenance, pleading for food from strangers, and she aimlessly wandered through unfamiliar territories, struggling immensely in every conceivable direction outside. During her extensive and arduous wandering, she experienced profound suffering and was forced to endure a multitude of severe hardships and immense difficulties. Later, after she gave birth to the child, the mother thought, "I've suffered so much for this child." The child doesn't have a father, which seemed like a very inauspicious thing, so she threw the child into the river. But when she threw him into the flowing river, the water miraculously flowed backward and, astonishingly, couldn't carry him away. He looked remarkably healthy, with a wonderfully rosy complexion and a truly strong, robust body. There were indeed many auspicious and fortunate signs surrounding him. Later, she also felt it was quite a rare and extraordinary occurrence, so she carefully picked him up again. After gently picking him up, she slowly and tenderly began to raise him herself, nurturing him with great care. When the young child eventually turned 7 years of age, he had the profound opportunity to meet the esteemed fourth patriarch, known as Daoxin. At the very moment they first met, it was evident that because of the sacred vows he had made in his previous life, there was a significant spiritual connection between them. He was extremely joyful and had great faith. He asked to be ordained and become a monk right away. At that time, Daoxin said, "You are too young. You cannot become a monk now." The child said, "Sometimes you say I am too old to become a monk, and sometimes you say I am too young to become a monk. So when can I become a monk?" He kept asking again and again. After repeatedly requesting, and because his mother was also very willing, she probably couldn't manage to raise him herself due to various challenging circumstances, and she especially wanted him to be accepted into a supportive and nurturing environment. Later, the fourth patriarch, recognizing his potential, graciously accepted him and took him in, providing him with guidance and care. When he turned 13, he officially became a monk and was given the Dharma name Hongren. After that, in front of the master, he made vows during the day and diligently practiced meditation at night. He also often listened attentively to the Dharma teachings and practiced diligently, among other things. After many years of observation like this, the fourth patriarch later, he had already attained enlightenment. After his enlightenment, the fourth patriarch formally entrusted his sacred Dharma robes and the complete lineage of his teachings to him. This significant event marked the official transmission of the Dharma. He subsequently became the revered and influential fifth patriarch, known as Master Hongren, a pivotal figure in history. His appearance makes me think of Garab Dorje in Vajrayana Buddhism, whose stories are also quite similar. Indeed, from the biographies, nowadays, in academic circles and among worldly people, they probably use the so-called mystery again. They use other words to replace it, but apart from that, there's nothing else. However, for us true Buddhists, for those who have faith, actually, there are many such cases in the world, various manifestations of great masters appearing to benefit sentient beings in different ways. These are truly inconceivable, meaning they are beyond ordinary human comprehension and difficult to fully grasp, and yet at the same time they are extremely reasonable, making perfect sense upon deeper reflection. Yesterday we had a discussion with everyone about the so-called fifth patriarch master, a revered figure. I believe that many of us should also be familiar with his significant deeds and teachings. To inspire faith, I first briefly introduced the fifth patriarch master. Today, we will begin discussing the very first section, which should be about the profound tacit understanding in question and answer. This involves exploring some significant exchanges between them in Chan Buddhism, delving into how these interactions reveal deeper insights and shared comprehension. Specifically, the question and answer interactions between the sixth patriarch and the fifth patriarch. We will talk about this aspect. The original text says the following. The patriarch asked, "Where are you from? What are you seeking?" Huineng replied, "I am a commoner from Xinzhou in Lingnan. I have come from afar to pay respects to the master, seeking only to become a Buddha and nothing else." Literally speaking, after about a month, he arrived at the place of the fifth patriarch, Master Hongren. After arriving at Master Hongren's place, he went to pay his respects to him. When he went to pay his respects, the master first asked him a question. Perhaps the disciple hadn't said anything yet. Actually, there are many records here about the relationship of reliance between master and disciple. I think it's really good. The first question the master asked him was, "Where are you from? What are you seeking here? Why have you come?" At that particular moment, Wineng, with a humble and sincere tone, stated, "I am an ordinary person, a common individual who originates from the Xinzhou area, a region located within the southern lands of Lingnan." He continued explaining his journey. "Indeed, I have come here from a very distant place, having traveled a remarkably long way, traversing many miles to reach this very spot. The main reason is to rely on a virtuous teacher and to pay respects to the master." Just now, didn't the master ask, "Why have you come?" "I have come here to seek Buddhahood, not for anything else." He spoke quite boldly and said directly, "I have come here to attain Buddhahood, to rely on you, and to become a Buddha. Nothing else. I am not here to make money or anything like that. Nor am I here for other things like so-called health, longevity, or being free from illness. There aren't any other various reasons either. Actually, nowadays, many people might be a bit different from the sixth patriarch in this regard. Many people today may only come to understand, after studying for a while, why they should rely on a master and why they should study the Dharma. They come to know the reasons for relying on a teacher and for learning the teachings. At the beginning, there are several types of people. One type is those who are especially miserable in their lives. They've heard that the Buddhist community is extremely pure, peaceful, comfortable, and joyful. So they come here to seek refuge, to escape. There are indeed people like this too. Some individuals, however, have their own ideas and motivations. They've heard that within the teachings of Buddhism, there are many rare attainments. These include things like the so-called supernatural powers, wealth, health, and so on. Some people don't really have any particular goal. If others say they're going to become monks, they just follow along and become monks too. For some, it might be due to family reasons or work-related reasons. Some people are truly deeply suffering in society. It seems like they can't face society. They lack the courage. They originally thought about committing suicide, but even that didn't work out, so they end up coming here instead. Indeed, nowadays, some movies and TV shows often say that all unsuccessful people end up in monasteries. Actually, that's not entirely correct, but it's hard to avoid in some cases. Because these news media in various different societies, if they keep promoting this kind of message in large quantities, when people truly encounter suffering, they end up choosing either I commit suicide or I become a monk. Some people really think this way. But in fact, Buddhist monastics are not like that. However, precisely because of the way many media outlets sensationalize things, some people end up developing this habit. Actually, it's caused by the way many people think and by various social habits. This is indeed different from the way many of us here became monastics. One should rely on a truly qualified spiritual teacher. This point is probably completely different from the experiences of many people. What is the real purpose of coming here? And it's not for anything else. It's to respectfully rely on a spiritual teacher and to aspire to become a Buddha oneself. We generate bodhicitta. We ourselves want to attain Buddhahood, and after becoming a Buddha, benefit all sentient beings. This is definitely a given, a fundamental truth. There's absolutely nothing more to say about it at all. Many of us here, no matter which teacher we follow, you should ask yourself whether your purpose in following your teacher is really this. Some people follow a spiritual teacher just because, oh, this teacher is so compassionate, so lovable. They think this teacher is great, feels really good, very nice. So they want to follow and rely on him. But what is the purpose of following him? They have neither the intention to become a Buddha nor the thought of benefiting sentient beings. Just following along in a daze for a long time like this isn't really reasonable, to be honest. Although we can't compare to someone like the sixth patriarch, with all the states of realization in Chan Buddhism, for many people that may truly be out of reach and very difficult. But still, in some important aspects, we can see when other successful and accomplished practitioners took their very first initial step, what was their purpose? And what is our purpose? Each of us should ask ourselves this. When I see these words, I also think back to when I first arrived here myself. Actually, when I first came to Larunga, I truly didn't know that attaining Buddhahood was so important, nor did I know that liberating sentient beings was so important. When I first arrived here, I truly didn't understand anything at all about the situation. Especially the very first time I had the profound privilege of meeting my esteemed teacher, that momentous occasion when I initially encountered the truly precious and revered guru, whose wisdom and guidance would profoundly shape my path and understanding. Never mind that, let's not talk about it. So, there are many such things we could discuss, but perhaps it's best to simply move on from this particular topic for now. Now let's continue. The patriarch said, "You are a man from Lingnan, and also a barbarian. How could you possibly become a Buddha? Huineng said, although people may come from the northern regions or the southern lands, Buddha nature itself truly has no north or south. My physical body as a barbarian may indeed be quite different from yours, Master, but how could our fundamental Buddha nature be any different at all? As I just mentioned, when I came to the revered Guru, I didn't seek anything else at all. My sole and profound aspiration was only to become a Buddha. After clearly and emphatically stating this deeply held desire, yes, he then responded, I am merely a commoner from the region of Lingnan, and I have journeyed all this way specifically to become a Buddha, to achieve enlightenment and liberation from suffering. He mainly answered these two questions, and then the master immediately denied his viewpoint. You are from Lingnan. People from Lingnan were called barbarians. At that time, barbarian was a term used to discriminate and look down on people. Calling someone a barbarian basically meant they were uncivilized and extremely foolish. In today's terms, it's like a kind of sarcastic insult. It was a kind of sarcasm directed at Southerners at the time. Nowadays, many people call Sichuanese Sichuan rats. Rat here means mouse. There was once a Sichuanese person who noticed others always calling him Sichuan rat. He felt very uncomfortable about it, but later, after reading many books and searching online, he realized that it's not just Sichuanese who are called Sichuan rats. People from Hubei are called nine-headed birds, and Beijingers are called Beijing slicksters. I'm wondering if Beijing slickster is similar in meaning to French slickster, like someone who doesn't care about anything and in the end becomes a real old hand at everything, right? The nine-headed bird also refers to someone especially clever who can speak differently to everyone by changing their head. And as for Sichuan rat, rats are small, very cunning, love to steal things, and are unreliable. So the nickname for Sichuanese people carries these kinds of connotations as well, and so on. It's basically like this. You're considered a Geliao from the Lingnan region. As for Geliao, at that time, people from the northeast and central regions saw southerners, I mentioned the other day. One reason is that the economic conditions there weren't very good. Another reason is that people there weren't very tall. Plus, most of the people living there were primarily fishermen, butchers, or hunters. Consequently, people generally tended to look down upon them and their professions. At that particular time, when it came to the esteemed sixth patriarch, on one hand, he meticulously observed the distinct personalities and individual characteristics of his various disciples. On the other hand, maybe there really was this kind of saying. They'd say, aren't you from Lingnan? All Lingnan people are Gelia, all bad people, barbaric and especially stupid. There's no future for you. For you to become a Buddha? That sounds like an exaggeration, doesn't it? How could someone from Lingnan become a Buddha? You can't even become a bodhisattva. You might as well just stay hunters. That's about as far as you'll go. That's the kind of tone he used. When he spoke like that, Huineng responded directly. He was really impressive. He said, people may be from the north or the south, but Buddha nature has no north or south. Whether someone is from the south or the north, in terms of Buddha nature, the Tathagata Garbha, there is no distinction. The body of a Gei Liao and the body of a monk are different. I possess the very humble and lowly body of a Gei Liao from the region of Lingnan. However, a truly great and revered monk, a monk is essentially what we would now refer to as a spiritual guide or guru. Indeed, I am someone of low status, while you have the body of a high-ranking northern monk. There is a bit of a difference. But in terms of Buddha nature, there shouldn't be any difference, right? Your Buddha nature and my Buddha nature, the Buddha nature of a butcher and the Buddha nature of a bodhisattva, there's really no difference. Actually, in Chan Buddhism and also in Dzogchen, there are many such ideas. For example, the minds of beings in hell. There are 8 great rarities, and in Dzogchen there are many rare great laughters. Among these, it is said that the mind of a being currently suffering in the Avicii hell and the wisdom of Samantabhadra Buddha, there is not the slightest bit of difference between them, and so on. In this way, the mind of a great monk and mine, even though I have just started learning Buddhism and can't even recognize a single character, there is really no difference in our minds. Although there are differences in our bodies and people differ between the north and south, there is no difference in Buddha nature. From this reasoning, everyone should understand that each of us truly has the potential to become a Buddha. We have this resource, this favorable condition. It can be said that no matter what kind of person you are, anyone can attain Buddhahood. From the perspective of the innate Tathagata Garbha nowadays, many Dharma friends of ours study the Tathagata Garbha and texts like the net of magical display and so on. When we observe from these definitive sutras and tantras, it is indeed true that no matter what kind of person you are, everyone possesses the luminous, beyond conception cause for Buddhahood. So at that time, he responded with this reasoning. The fifth patriarch wanted to speak with him further, but seeing that all the disciples were around, he instructed him to join the others in their work. The master originally wanted to debate with him a bit more. It seems he was indeed very clever and genuinely wanted to say a few more important words to him, but there were many people nearby. They kept watching, never leaving, always paying close and undivided attention to precisely what he was saying. This might be quite profoundly different from many contemporary Buddhists today. Some stood and watched, some sat and watched, and some came specifically to eavesdrop. So the master also felt it wasn't very convenient to say much to him in that situation. Then he told him to go work with the rest of the monks and do other tasks. Actually, at this point, we can also see that with some masters and disciples, regardless of which master or disciple it is, not everyone's foundation is necessarily the same. So for many devoted disciples, no matter who the spiritual master is, there may be some very special teachings or specific instructions given directly to them. At such particular times, it's not really necessary to physically go there and keep listening, being overly concerned, paying close attention, or being afraid and focusing on it too much. It's not always truly necessary. At that time, the fifth patriarch probably meant that there were still some necessary conversations about the Dharma that needed to happen among them. But if he had treated the sixth patriarch especially well from the very first day he arrived, in the later parts of the Platform Sutra of the sixth patriarch, you can also see that many things are quite complicated. It's not just what we refer to nowadays. For example, among leaders, there are all kinds of scheming and power struggles. Even in ancient royal palaces, there were many instances of jealousy and various forms of discord. This even occurred among Buddhists. In ancient times, especially back then, there were disputes over things like the transmission of the robe and bowl. Such issues were actually quite serious in this regard. Therefore, if the master does not skillfully and wisely transmit his teachings to his disciples, it is very possible, judging from many later historical accounts, that the sixth patriarch might not have been able to truly inherit the lineage at that time. So, as for the master, if we speak according to his actual capacity, from the ultimate point of view, such prolonged ascetic practice might not have been necessary. He could have directly transmitted the most profound teachings, and that would have been sufficient. However, if this were done, many people might not accept it. They would wonder, this person has only just arrived. How could the master treat him like this? And as for Shenshu and the others, this will be discussed later as well. They had followed the master for a very long time, yet were not given the transmission. Moreover, in Chan Buddhism, all the lineages at that time were transmitted to only one person each generation. The robe and bowl were passed down from one generation to the next, so they might have been quite, especially those who were more attached. These people were likely to be even more jealous. At that time, the master might have wanted to have a deeper conversation and share more profound teachings. But because there were many people around, he respectfully asked him to go and diligently take care of the monastic duties and responsibilities. At this crucial point, we truly need to fully understand something very important. One is the profound and true existence of Buddha nature, also known as the Tathagata Garbha. This means that right now, all sentient beings are fundamentally no different from the Buddha himself. After studying the definitive sutras, we understand this issue even more clearly. Huineng said, Huineng asks the Venerable Master, my own mind constantly gives rise to wisdom, and as long as I do not depart from my own nature, that itself is a field of merit. May I ask, Master, what work do you instruct me to do? Because at that time, the great master asked him to do tasks for the monastic community. While they were conversing, he was not allowed to continue further. The master also did not continue questioning him, but instead asked him to go and do things for the monastic community. When Huineng was about to leave the master, he recited this verse. Huineng had something significant to present or a crucial request to make from the master. Here, the term He Shang in ancient times, I think, was probably a distinguished title for a great and revered master. Unlike nowadays, where all monastics, whether young monks or senior monks, are all called He Shang. In our Tibetan Buddhism, it is the same way. Originally, the so-called Lama means master or teacher. For example, at Yaking Monastery, only Akyuk Lama is called Lama. Other ordinary ones, including Khenpos, are not called Lamas. There are cases like this. In the past, for example, in monasteries, the true masters who transmitted the Dharma could be called Khenpo or Lama, But later, this term gradually extended so that any Tibetan monastic, there's a lama here, a lama there. It even got to the point where Tibetan Buddhism as a whole was called a Lamaism. Are you studying Lamaism? Seeing you wear red robes, you must be from Lamaism, right? Gradually, the so-called Lama became a title that seemed to apply to everyone. Anyone who practices Tibetan Buddhism could be called the same. It's the same with the term monk. In the past, it referred to true abbots or great masters in monasteries. These were called monks. In Sanskrit from India, the general term for monk was equivalent to something like a postdoctoral or doctoral degree. Only those with exceptionally high learning were qualified to be called monks. Ordinary people weren't called monks, but now there might be different titles. At that time, he prayed to his guru. The disciple's mind often revealed wisdom, constantly giving rise to wisdom. My mind often reveals wisdom as well. This wisdom is also inseparable from one's true nature, inseparable from the nature of the Tathagatagarbha, luminosity, undivided and indistinguishable. This is also a field of merit. As we all know, there are fields of compassion, fields of gratitude, and so on. According to the Abhidharmakosha and other treatises, this is also explained in the same way. When I say my mind often manifests wisdom, it means I have already attained enlightenment. Moreover, this state of enlightenment in the ultimate sense is inseparable from the luminous nature. In the conventional world, whoever forms a connection with him, whoever pays homage to him, whoever often regards him as an object of reverence, also becomes a field of merit. Truly great masters are indeed different from ordinary people in the world. Why do we study the Platform Sutra of the sixth patriarch? Because the sixth patriarch himself also said this before his teacher at that time. From the very beginning, he had already become a field of merit. That is precisely why we now meticulously discuss his profound and sacred Vajra words. At the very same time, when we earnestly develop deep respect, genuine joy, and unwavering faith in devoutly supplicating him, we are truly engaging in a most significant spiritual practice. We too should become a field of merit. Just as I mentioned the other day, after he left this world, even relying on his physical body, he has benefited countless sentient beings. Truly great monks and accomplished masters, not only during their lifetimes, take for example Maipam Rinpoche, who has been gone for such a long time, yet the number of disciples who have received his teachings and lineage is something everyone should be aware of. Similarly, the omniscient Longchenpa has been gone from this world for so many years, but the Dharma treasures he left behind, and the merit and wisdom gained by those who pray to him in their own streams of consciousness, everyone is also very clear about this. So at that time, in front of his teacher, he spoke about a spontaneous expression of his true nature, a kind of revelation of his original face. Disciples, when in front of their teacher, should speak up, and when necessary, they will also do so. Therefore, constantly giving rise to wisdom, never departing from one's true nature, is a field of merit. Actually, things like this happen in our institute as well, including some Han Chinese who have just arrived. Perhaps they often study the sixth patriarch. In front of me, there are often many people singing songs about enlightenment. I myself haven't attained enlightenment, so I don't even look at it. I wonder, have I really attained enlightenment or not? Many people say, oh, I've already become enlightened. Look at how high my realization is. I'm not really good at judging, and maybe some people truly have attained enlightenment. Perhaps it's like, oh, since the sixth patriarch was like this, then I'm probably about the same. They might think this way themselves, but it's not particularly clear. So-called realization is, of course, indeed very profound, but we still have confidence that we will attain realization in the future. And even if you don't reach the same level as the sixth patriarch, my bottom line is at least not to fall into the lower realms and to be reborn in the pure land of ultimate bliss, or in this very life to benefit sentient beings. No matter which teacher it is, they don't necessarily pass on their mantle to a single person. But as long as we can benefit sentient beings, whether the mantle is passed on or not actually makes no real difference. The Buddha said in the sutras that this Dharma transmission has already been given to everyone. If you haven't truly benefited sentient beings or spread the Dharma, even if the mantle is given to me, I don't really desire it. That's how I feel now. Maybe when I was younger, especially when I just started following my teacher, I often thought about these things. For example, if my teacher didn't mention my name at a certain gathering, why did the teacher mention the names of the other kinpos, but not mine? Was it because the teacher was dissatisfied with me or didn't recognize my wisdom? Or was there some other reason? Sometimes I felt uneasy about it. This kind of thing happened. But looking at it now, no matter how much praise you receive in any situation, if in the end I can't benefit sentient beings, there will probably still be some difficulties. So in this regard, everyone should understand as well. Here it says, if one does not stray from such a nature, one becomes a field of merit. What does the abbot want me to do? And this means, I don't know what else you want me to do. At this point, I have already constantly given rise to wisdom, never straying from my true nature, and have become a field of merit. Sentient beings can rely on me to accomplish many things. I have already reached such a state. Yet you still want me to do things for the monastic community. I am serving them. Does that mean the Sangha is creating bad karma? Is that what he means? I'm not entirely sure how this particular concept is precisely expressed in the Chinese language. I'm just simply saying it quite directly as it comes to mind. At this significant point in time, the venerable fifth patriarch uttered these profound words. The wise patriarch thoughtfully said, "This individual, whom you might perceive as a barbarian, possesses an exceptionally sharp and perceptive nature. Therefore, say no more and proceed directly to the threshing floor without further delay." He stated that this individual, whom he referred to as a barbarian, is in fact remarkably intelligent by his very nature. On the one hand, he employs a rather contemptuous term to label him, yet on the other hand, he simultaneously and quite unequivocally acknowledges and recognizes the inherent intellectual capabilities and sharp mind of this same person. The master did not deny any of his words, he tacitly agreed to them. After tacitly agreeing, he said, "Your foundation is quite good, but there's no need to say much more to me. If you're told to work, just go work. Go to the threshing floor." Actually, the threshing floor might have originally been a small shed for keeping animals. But generally, such places don't exist inside monasteries. It's a place where monks do hard labor as an act of devotion. Like the arduous tasks of shoveling coal and other similar physically demanding chores, Huineng, with a humble spirit, withdrew to the secluded backyard. There, an attendant assigned him the demanding duties of splitting firewood and diligently pounding rice, a task he faithfully performed for a considerable period, diligently working for over 8 months. Master Huineng listened to his teacher's profound instruction not to say much more. "Anyway, you're still pretty smart, and I believe in your capabilities. Just go do some work for me first, and we can discuss things further after that." Huineng replied, "Lasso," acknowledging the instruction with a simple, respectful word, and then he promptly went to work. For those who are new or unfamiliar with this term, newcomers might not immediately understand what lasso signifies. To clarify its meaning, it essentially translates to yes or okay in this particular context, serving as a simple affirmation or acknowledgement. There was an attentive attendant positioned in the back of the area, probably someone volunteering their time and effort, driven by a deep sense of devotion and commitment to the cause or community. He meticulously arranged for Huineng to undertake the essential daily chores of splitting firewood and diligently pounding rice, these being his primary responsibilities within the monastery. Huineng dedicated himself to these demanding duties for a substantial period, specifically working there for 8 full months, diligently contributing to the monastic community. So later on, when we first arrived to observe, many people who want to become monks might actually benefit from working for 8 months as well. Even someone as gifted as Huineng needed 8 months of dedicated effort. I think for us, if we just do half of what Huineng did, like if we only dedicate ourselves for 4 months, that doesn't really make sense. It's not possible that we're more gifted than he was. If Huineng needed 8 months, then maybe we need a year and 6 months, or at least more than a year. That might actually be the right approach. Maybe a year and 4 months, we'll see. This can be discussed later. Overall, it really was indeed the master himself who asked him to do this important task. Considering his strong foundation and considerable wisdom, the master actually recognized him right away, but there were still 2 possible outcomes. One possibility was not making him do hard labor, not making him do that kind of work, and immediately recognizing him as soon as he arrived, and right away passing the Dharma and the robe to him. Later on, there were some obstacles in spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings. So considering the social background and certain circumstances at that time, it wasn't really suitable, and that was also part of the intention. But the main purpose was this. For later practitioners, whether you have sharp faculties or dull faculties, no matter what kind of person you are, you must practice austerities while relying on your master. So I often see that many Dharma friends here, to be honest, everyone is really, aside from listening, contemplating, and practicing in terms of physical effort and other altruistic actions, people are often especially hardworking and capable. This is particularly important. For example, in our institute, most of the monastics, sometimes for the sake of the entire institute or to adequately cover their own personal living expenses every time, each class unloads such large trucks filled with so many things. But I see that many Dharma teachers do this without any arrogance. Everyone participates together, and this is also very necessary. At the very beginning, our precious Guru required that within our institute, no matter what the task was, everyone at every level had to take part. So now we're not just praising ourselves, but some of the great Dharma teachers in the institute, their lack of arrogance is quite different from others. No matter what the task, the Guru cultivated this quality in us. This is very much in line with the conduct of some great masters in the Chan tradition. In the past, many great masters of the Chan tradition, as well as some great masters from other Chinese Buddhist schools, for example, the Venerable Master Yingguang frequently served in the dining hall, diligently assisting with the daily meals. There are many inspiring stories recounted about his humble and selfless service. Additionally, the esteemed Dangxia was often found meticulously weeding the fields, tending to the crops with great care and dedication. And during the Tang dynasty, there was a well-known master named Dao Liang. Master Dao Liang devoted himself to serving the monastic community for over 30 years. In particular, he chopped firewood and pounded rice, and for 6 years he never missed a single day. Some historical records describe it this way. I've also mentioned before about the profound spiritual practice known as Shida herding cattle. Indeed, countless revered Chan masters throughout history took the initiative to do voluntary labor, dedicating their lives to its pursuit. On one particular occasion, while the Venerable Chan Master Jiaozhou was diligently engaged in his meditative practice and profound spiritual work, a young and earnest Buddhist practitioner, filled with curiosity and a desire for guidance, respectfully came to seek his wisdom and presence. He asked Chan Master Jiaozhou to give him guidance and teach him a Dharma teaching. Jiaozhou asked, "Have you eaten?" The young man replied, "Yes, I have." "After you finish eating, wash your bowl first, then we'll talk." The young man went out and washed his bowl. After washing it, he came back and asked, "Could you please teach me the Dharma now?" Then Jiaozhou said, "Sweep the floor first, then we'll talk." The young man was a bit maybe like some young people nowadays. He started to get angry and said, "Besides washing bowls and sweeping the floor, is there really no Chan teaching apart from these things?" Jiaozhou said, "Apart from sweeping the floor and washing bowls, I don't see any other Dharma for Chan practice." So in this story, maybe the master was a bit displeased when he said this, but regardless, it's true that whether in Chan meditation or among many great Dzogchen masters, they too, in the process of relying on a spiritual teacher, underwent a lot of rigorous and dedicated ascetic practice, and such profound asceticism is truly necessary for spiritual development and the cultivation of inner peace. Therefore, with this understanding, we sincerely hope that all lay practitioners who are an integral part of our community will often find opportunities to help out and contribute their valuable time and efforts at the monastery, supporting its various activities and daily functions. And whether it's in front of Buddhists or non-Buddhists, to humbly and diligently undertake some essential tasks which can effectively dispel various internal obstacles within ourselves, allowing for greater clarity. For monastics as well, ascetic practice should be done at all times. Especially when working for the Sangha, this is extremely meaningful. One should not think too highly of oneself and always be unwilling to engage in ascetic practice. If you do so, in the end, your own mind stream will only become more and more arrogant. So nowadays, I often think this way. First, as a practitioner, one must not stop attending teachings. Attending teachings is essential. If you have the opportunity, even listening to one class a day is good. Throughout your lifetime, if you have the chance to listen to teachings, that is the best. The other day, I cited scriptural evidence for this. After listening to the Dharma, one can reduce afflictions, increase wisdom, and prevent obstacles from demons, among other benefits. For these reasons, and also after we have listened to such teachings, many improper behaviors in our own mental continuum will gradually become proper. This is the first and most important thing. The second most important thing is that just listening to teachings, just being a bookworm, is also not enough. Some people are only like this. Now, in our Tibetan Buddhism, there are also such cases. They go to other places, studying debate every day, attending lectures every day. When it comes to giving lectures and debating, they are extremely skilled. But later, when it comes to truly spreading the Dharma and interacting with others, it becomes very difficult. Because right now we still need to be among such groups of people. So some basic abilities to cooperate with others are necessary. If you lack this, it also won't work. So now, let's not even talk about spreading Buddhism. Even in worldly businesses, they have to conduct many trainings every 6 months. In fact, how many people do they have to face? Maybe hundreds of clients, hundreds of people. But in order to face them, they have to undergo a lot of training and practice. This is often necessary. So for those who spread the Dharma, on one hand, it's important to look at the examples set by our predecessors. For example, the sixth patriarch, during more than 8 months every single day. There was once a documentary called A Millennium on the Bodhi Path. In it, the depiction of the sixth patriarch's ascetic practices was actually quite well done. So for many things, we also need to observe ourselves personally. First, what is it like to meet a guru? After meeting a guru, what should you do? If a great accomplished master like the sixth patriarch uses a certain way to express himself, it allows you to But on the other hand, as I just mentioned, these two things cannot. It is still important to attend teachings in front of the guru and other Dharma teachers if your motivation isn't very strong and you want to leave. If you haven't understood any Dharma at all, when it comes to actions like those of the sixth patriarch, we may not necessarily have that kind of confidence. If you do have it, of course, that's the best. Here it clearly states that he diligently practiced asceticism for a full 8 months. One particular day, the patriarch suddenly saw Huineng and thoughtfully said, "I truly believe your understanding is quite usable, but I genuinely fear that evil people may harm you, so I have not spoken to you until now. Do you fully understand this?" Huineng respectfully replied, "Disciple also deeply understands the master's true intention, so I dared not openly go to the main hall so that no one would notice my presence." During those entire 8 months, the master basically ignored him and didn't pay any particular attention to him. Then, one significant day, the master finally saw him and spoke to him. "I truly think that your current understanding is quite usable. This is most probably what he genuinely meant. I believe your understanding, especially your profound realization regarding the concept of Tathagatagarbha and various other significant aspects that were mentioned earlier in our discussion, is very insightful and accurate. It's quite good. But if I use you directly transmit the Dharma to you and make you my successor, I am truly afraid that some potentially malicious individuals might indeed cause you significant harm. So for the present moment, I absolutely will not disclose this information to you. Do you fully comprehend and understand what I am trying to convey to you at this moment? Why did I have you work for such a long time? If I acknowledge you directly, it might be inconvenient for both you and me. That's why some masters have skillful and expedient methods. For certain disciples with especially good aptitude, they truly want to make very special use of them and provide them with exceptionally special care. However, among such a large number of people, it's quite very likely that others might potentially harm them. Actually, it's precisely the same in those particular situations. Some individuals truly themselves are. What are many people generally like in today's society nowadays? At first, this is how it's explained on the surface. Huineng also said that the disciple fully understood the master's intention, so he didn't dare to frequently go before the master in the Dharma hall to see him. If he was especially exceptional and every time he went, the master treated him very well, then afterwards many things might not turn out well. So the master also acted as if he didn't pay attention to him in front of the assembly. The disciple Huineng was also very clever. He also worked very diligently and honestly at his own hard labor. He didn't go to the Dharma hall every day. Generally speaking, in Han Chinese monasteries, there is the Dharma hall, the meditation hall, and the chanting hall. But here, the main point is that he didn't go to where the Dharma master lectured every day. The purpose of not going was to make it seem as if he wasn't there at all. Perhaps at first, if they hadn't paid much attention to the sixth patriarch, others didn't pay attention to him either. He just worked alongside the other monks like everyone else. There was no special treatment at that time. After things were like this, later on, many causes and conditions for spreading the Dharma became very reasonable in all aspects. So in the intricate process of truly relying upon a spiritual teacher, indeed as a revered master, it was evident that he absolutely did not treat any individual better or with more favor simply because of personal feelings or subjective biases. Nor did he directly pass on the Dharma or certain lineages to someone just because of that. Even now, such exclusive transmissions don't really exist, including in Tibetan Buddhism. Some masters are very compassionate, and basically they teach to a small group, maybe a few dozen or a few hundred people. But nowadays, in Tibet, there are also a few great masters who give the titles of eminent monks and great masters to certain people around them, including some of their own relatives, and often bestow the titles of tulku, reincarnate lamas, in this way. To be honest, this is very unreasonable. It's an isolated phenomenon, not something everyone does. In the future, if we are to promote the Dharma, we really need to use our wisdom and observe from all aspects. If it is reasonable, then you can let them take on the work of spreading the Dharma and benefiting sentient beings. But if they do not have this ability and you appoint them based on personal relationships, this is just like worldly relationships. For example, when someone wants to become a leader in the secular world, and we let them have the position purely because of personal connections. When we usually select Kenmos, or Dharma teachers during this process, at least for myself, I don't know what others think. It's inevitable that there will be all kinds of opinions, and I understand that. But still, the Dharma should come first. If I have a close personal relationship with someone, then regardless of what I give them with my personal ability, whatever abilities I have in daily life, that should be fine. So I hope that in the future, everyone will use their own wisdom to observe, and be sure to observe very fairly. This is something that, as a teacher, must be done in the process of selecting disciples. You must always consider the Dharma and sentient beings first. This is the first point. The second point is, as a disciple, in the process of relying on the teacher, on one hand, you must maintain pure perception. Because as a teacher, there are often a great many people surrounding him, whether they are lay individuals or those who are ordained. There's always a palpable sense of jealousy that seems to permeate the atmosphere. I have truly and honestly noticed this particular phenomenon within myself as well on numerous occasions. Although the teacher has many disciples, often, just as I mentioned earlier, I also have this ability. So why doesn't the teacher praise me this time? Why does he praise a certain Dharma teacher instead? I have often made this mistake myself. But what is the most serious issue now? There is another kind of situation these days. Some disciples are not actually the teacher's favorites or anything like that, but they deliberately add a lot of cunning words, claiming, the teacher gave me something special, transmitted the Dharma to me, gave me this or that. They even go around spreading these things everywhere, saying all sorts of things. In the end, the teacher may not actually treat you that well. On the contrary, this actually causes great harm to various aspects of the teacher. You may also be able to see and hear about this yourselves. Nowadays, the work of many teachers has been greatly affected, but in fact, it is not the teacher's own fault. It should be attributed to some disciples around them who keep spreading things, saying this and that. Jealousy and scheming behaviors often occur among them. Originally, this teacher was very good and extremely compassionate. He truly wanted to spread the Dharma to many people. But later, because some disciples may have done things intentionally, some disciples deliberately try to harm certain teachers. Such situations do exist. So our society today is indeed very complicated. Some teachers often develop a sense of aversion and are unwilling to take on disciples. Many teachers, especially those with higher realization, spend their later years in the mountains. There are quite a few people like this. We see it often. Some people, after witnessing the misdeeds of many disciples, truly find it unbearable. So in the process of relying on a spiritual teacher, everyone should also take a look at this. On the surface, it may seem to us, why didn't the sixth patriarch go to see his teacher every day back then? Why did the teacher also not give him blessings every day? For 8 months, he was made to, even though they had such a good karmic connection, they completely ignored each other. Was this really necessary? In fact, this is a skillful means. Right? Therefore, in the process of relying on a teacher, wisdom is indeed required. Without wisdom, you probably won't succeed yourself. Such situations do occur. I originally wanted to talk about the next point, but it seems we're out of time. Let's stop here for today.
Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye Bandara Badna Sodargye